Pamina's installation talks about the reinvention of bodies. Pamina's body, used as an example. Recognizing that our bodies are inscribed as artifacts with a long history. It's about the gaze and how, especially through colonialism, in South Africa, apartheid, blackness and whiteness, gender, how our bodies have been inscribed, and Pamina's work is about reinventing them, even though that process is incomplete.
We need to focus, for us to move from rollbacks to resilience, to actually reinventing ourselves. We need to take note of what is happening in our minds. We need to take note of our mental well-being, and we need to constantly monitor how we're feeling. And when I ask you, are you okay? I really mean that. I'm asking you, are you okay? And when you're answering that, don't just, brush it off.
UCT is your ally. I personally am your ally. And allyship is not easy. Allyship is a journey of listening and learning, unlearning and growing. And so we open ourselves to that journey with you as we go along. Because no university or institution or indeed country can fully develop while minorities or some people are marginalized. By excluding certain groups of people or by excluding groups of minorities, institutions and countries actually hold back their own potential. And we at UCT know that we are stronger when we stand together and include everyone in our midst. So I want you, as you join us, to know that it is your space. It is a safe space for you. I want you to feel free to hold your partner's hand on our campus. You will not be judged. You will not be heckled. Actually, you will never be attacked. And enjoy our gender-neutral bathrooms, and enjoy the full campus as it's your own.
Conversations that we have, it's normally to ask those that are in the room what it would mean for them to feel included. Interestingly, we are at ease in detailing it probably in almost a similar way that we have. And most of the time we speak about inclusion to be able to be heard. That's most of what women say. Most women will talk about career promotion as a way of inclusion.
So I like your question, Fundi, because I've been doing a lot of research in the past few weeks. But before I can talk about that research, I think for us to be able to know how far should we be included, I think we need to understand what is entitled to us, what our rights are, right? Because sometimes we feel like, it's better than nothing. But how do we come to a point where we say it's actually not about being better than something, but it's actually what we are supposed to be, or where we are supposed to be.
Now the Constitution says, which is, it speaks to the need for redress for the injustices of the past and all of those things, and the laws that actualize that. And they are, with queer inclusion in the workplace, for an example, you get as far as employment equity, which is a fantastic piece of legislation, but nobody really knows how to measure what that means. So corporates interpret it as they want, but there's a piece of legislation called Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment, which speaks to people in rural areas, people with disabilities, women, and youth. How did the LGBTI community not make that list? And my answer, because I'm a political commentator, is they, I'm not gonna say who they are, don't want us touching their procurement money. It comes down to they don't want us getting the procurement spend, And from then it trickles down to, I mean, if you're running an organization that does skills development, there's funding sitting there that you're not accessing because you were never explicitly mentioned. There's skills development, there's enterprise development, and corporates can tap into it to help LGBTI issues, but there's nothing about the legislation that explicitly incentivizes them to work with LGBTI organizations. So they can choose you, or they can choose somebody else, and then a lot of organizations wonder, why are we not getting the funding? Well, there's stigma and there's no incentive.
There isn't anything that includes LGBTQIA plus community there. And I think that for me is something that we need to look closely into, because we can always use the Constitution as a reference. When we walk into like public broadcaster or any other media platforms that we go into, they often talk about inclusion in the way that you are making an example, and the narrative is told wrong. We don't have enough educational programs. I sat in a workshop with SABC, and it almost seemed like every time they wanted to talk about queer people, it was in some drama series that plays after 7 or 8 or 9. It wasn't looked at from the point of just doing educational programs from like early child development, children's program, educational stuff. So that whole thing that Virginia was saying about, we feel like at least that doing something is not enough. So we must go back and look at those things, because the SABC must be held accountable, and we don't do that often. We don't sit there and question them on the educational programs that are there and how representation and inclusion manifests itself in the program. So that's where I was going. If we want to go and talk about sensitization and stuff, it should be included in those programs.
The Crowd Prize is Roy Ubaka.
So much. I appreciate this. Like, I want to thank all the judges, Mark, Ella, because seriously, this has been incredible, so unexpected, and I'm so glad I made this trip to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you.